everyone. This is Raquel and welcome. Today is September 23rd in the year 2023, and it is the equinox. And for those of us in the northern hemisphere, we're going into shorter days, and those of you in the southern, into longer. And it's always just a reminder of the cycles within cycles within cycles that continue as we go through this beautiful journey of awakening. So much is happening across the board as per usual. And we're noticing a lot of evidence of more and more bifurcation happening. And what does that really mean? What does bifurcation mean? Primarily in this context, what we're talking about are those who are able to live, function, exist, and experience higher levels of frequency, embody those higher frequencies, and actually have a completely different experience than those who are not. And what does that mean? Those who are not really waking up yet, who are still stuck in the old paradigm, who are always experiencing life through a very different lens. And so the bifurcation continues as those of us who are leading the way into the new unity consciousness are having a very different experience. And this seems so backwards, really. We're talking about going into unity consciousness, and yet we're talking about a bifurcation, a split. And what it really is, when you think about it, it is more and more of those who are choosing to step into this new frequency, this new magnetic, this new way of being, which is much, much, much more of our natural state. And those who are still very much caught up in the old binary, the old egoic programs, and life as they're experiencing through social media and believing and very much affected by mass media and the mass consciousness grids that are still playing out the distortions very heavily. And so we are coming through another gateway. This equinox gateway is another energetic point in which that level of separation, and again, so completely, I wish I had different wording, but it is a wedge, if you will, that is getting larger between those who can experience, tap in, and embody the higher frequencies, and those who are still experiencing the distortions in our world. And so this particular gateway, we are going to start noticing even more and more and more that difference with family members, with sometimes even friends, although if you are in the higher vibration, your friends that can't keep up with you probably are going to start fading away. Family members, the same. Even within your work situation, those, if you're going into a corporate environment, if you're going into a public environment, you'll start to notice that those who gravitate towards you are much more stepping into awakening, and those who are not, It's going to be a really hard thing for them to be in your fields. And if they are in your fields while you're holding this higher frequency, you're going to be pushing their buttons. And what does that mean? It means you're just by being, just by holding what you hold at a higher frequency, it is coming up against their denser energy bodies, the density that they're still holding, and it starts to hopefully shift and move it. But the person's level of consciousness, their level of inner work, determines their reaction, right? So just by being who you are with a higher understanding and awareness and holding those higher frequencies, there is a potential for those around you to feel that and react. And so just be aware of that, especially those who are really in a public experience where it's not the same day-to-day people, right? If you're working in a corporate office, you see the same people over and over. If you're working in a restaurant or a grocery store or somewhere public where it's a constant different shift of individuals coming in, just be aware that your frequency will have an effect. We hope it's positive, but sometimes those really dense fields come up against so much light that it's agitating to the person. And then add on to that, in the mass media and the mass consciousness, the increase of those frequencies, and yes, there are magnetic frequencies that are being used to keep humanity locked down. Those are through all kinds of different levels. And those particular experiences are getting heightened. So, for example, if you were to think about a dial on a good old volume, right? If you're turning up the volume on the radio, the binary magnetics, the old magnetics, the lunar, that is held by the lunar magnetics, they've been turned up. That volume has been turned up in a direct response to how much of the light body of the planet is coming online, how much we're unlocking of the old paradigm within the light architecture, and they're responding, trying to hold on to their control. So those who are not awake are getting bombarded with even more, right, of that agitation, of that doom gloom, of that frequency that is doing everything to keep them locked down and out of their own sovereignty, in the trenches, if you will. So just be aware of that as we continue, because the, as I said, the wedge between the two groups, if you will, is getting wider. It's getting much more noticeable. And so the whole idea of being a way shower, the whole reason we are doing this on the cutting edge of walking through this experience is because we are destined to hold that higher frequency and walk through the world. That is one of the things we agreed to. And it takes a lot of mastery to be able to hold that frequency in the midst of the chaos. But that is what we are here to do. That is becoming easier and easier and easier, even with the amplification of that wedge between those who are holding higher frequencies and the beautiful souls that are still very much deep into the binary old programming. And so as we are going through this equinox, a balance of light and dark on the planet itself in this cycle, we're actually beginning to, for the first time, as we continue this journey, the light body of the planet is taking on such a different frequency in locations where the planetary light body is unlocking at a very rapid rate. And so, those of us who are on this journey, who are keeping the light body, our own personal light body and frequency at the highest levels, we have the opportunity, whether we're in that physical location or not, to tap into those higher rarefied frequencies of light that are moving us even further into higher levels of consciousness. And so, this particular equinox, there is much, 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 much that is being unlocked in Ireland, which is a beautiful, magical place. Hopefully, some of you may have actually had the opportunity to travel there. I know I have a few of my clients that are actually in Ireland, living within those grids. And right now, it is awakening, it's unlocking at brand new levels that we have not had since the time of the Hyperboreans, which was the time of Gaia in 7D. And those grids and how it is affecting the totality of the planet and our ability to, again, anchor into those higher frequencies is spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. And so Ireland is going through a beautiful purging as it awakens. And when I say this, talking about a landmass, it's like, what do you mean a landmass is awakening? It is part of the planetary body. The planet is a absolutely magnificent sentient being of light. She is, she's our sister, all of us. We know her deeply. And as she unlocks, that part of her body begins to reactivate and come alive in higher frequencies, in higher frequency bands of consciousness. And so it's really exciting, at least for me, at the levels that are unlocking there. And when you tune in to that landmass, when you tune in to the fairies, which are very real in higher dimensions, the gnomes, all of the beautiful elementals that we've heard in the fairy tales, right? They're all real. They've just been distorted within the binary that we've been playing within for this experience of separation and duality. But all of those levels of consciousness, and many of us have aspects of ourselves in those experiences, in those bodysuits, in those levels of frequency that we're going to be able to tap into more and more and more as this unlocks and as we raise our frequency. And heaven knows, I don't know a single light worker on this planet that isn't partial to fairies and to sprites and to unicorns. These are frequencies that we recognize, we know to the core of our being. We live in those frequencies in other aspects. They're very magical, they're very playful, they're very high frequencies. And so these are the types of energies and aspects of ourselves that are coming back online exponentially as we move through this portal of light, this trigger date, there's many different names, the gateway, all of that is applicable. And so it's time to really celebrate and for the next few weeks for sure, make sure that you are tapping into that. Make sure that you are consciously connecting as the outer world around us continues to split, if you will. And again, that split isn't about a new Earth planetary body that's going to be different than the Earth here in physicality, if you will. It's all about your ability to perceive. And that ability comes with how much light your cells can actually embody and interpret. It goes hand in hand with your light body, how much you've been able to activate, the level of frequencies you're able to hold, completely shifts your ability to see and experience. We can be sitting next to someone right next to us, and our perceptions, what we see, what we experience, what we feel, and what we know will be completely, already is completely different. It's always been an inside job. It's always been about how you continue to raise your frequency, activate your light body, and be able to hold higher frequencies that changes everything. And so as we go through this beautiful gateway, it's time to celebrate. We'll take this win, we'll take this next level and be in such joy about it as all the other chaos slips away for as long as we can hold that frequency, right? And then come back to it again and again and again and again. So celebrate this beautiful equinox and do it from a space within your heart. Hi, I'm Raquel, and I am an ascension guide, helping you to awaken and remember your quantum self. I provide a holistic, multifaceted, and comprehensive approach to your awakening and ascension, bringing you to the cutting edge of consciousness while expanding your ability to live multidimensionally. You are a divine, sovereign being of light, and it's time to remember. Explore my website, raquelspencer.com, to learn about becoming your quantum self.